Poppets, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my Halloween series. This video is going to be very different to what I normally do, but because of the time of year I thought it was quite fitting to do it now. This isn't a story or stories that I tell a lot of people, but I thought we're going to brave it today and we're going to do this video, Susie. We're going to tell your ghost stories. These are true events that have happened in my life and that still happen today. I probably won't talk about this like this ever again, so I would actually really appreciate a share, if you could please, of this video, because I'd like to reach out to people with this video that could probably tell me what is going on. But yeah, if you could share, please, that would be awesome. This video is going to be quite hard for me to do, so I might stumble along words, on words, and I normally do anyway. And also, this is a video that I'm obviously not going to be, I mean, I'm always bubbly, but I'm sort of toned right down for this video because, yeah, obviously what I'm talking about scares me in a sense. But if you'd like to hear my true event ghost stories, then keep on watching. And if this is the first time you see my face, I am normally a Harry Potter YouTuber, by the way. But if you would like to become a Potter Poppet with us, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. My social medias are all linked in the description of this video. Go see what I'm up to on those. And guys, I'm trying my hardest to get to my next big milestone of 2,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button for me. And also, just before we get started, I want to thank all my Patreons because they help me keep this channel running just that little bit more. If you'd like to know a little bit more about Patreon, it's linked in the description of this video. Also, go check it out. If it seems to be your sort of thing, then come join us. Let's talk about these ghost stories. Oh my gosh, I'm scared. Come on, Susie. Right, the first encounter I cannot remember. This is what my mum and my nana have told me. So I was in my back garden at my mum's house. Obviously I was little and I lived there at the time. And they were gardening, my mum and nana were gardening. I'm assuming my nana was there helping because I was so little. And if I needed tending to, the other one could carry on gardening, you know, that sort of thing. But I was playing ball, I was happy. And then I started playing ball with somebody. And my mum said, who are you talking to? And I said, Granddad. Now, my granddad, who was my mum's dad, he died about 8 years before I was born. But apparently I was playing ball and I was talking with him. And my mum said, but there's nobody there. And I said that there's Granddad there. And apparently I was confused as to why nobody could see him, but I could, and it got me all frustrated and things. So I was really like, no, Granddad is there. Then my nana got a bit upset, obviously, because it was her husband, and she turned around and she was like, well, what does he look like then? And I apparently described him down to a T. And then either later that day or the next day, my mum sat me down with some family photos. She paused on one of my granddad on purpose, obviously. I then pointed at this photo and said, that is the man that was playing ball with me. When I was growing up, like a lot of children, I had an invisible friend. Now, I can remember having an invisible friend, but I can't remember what we got up to. But I always remember my mum saying that when I had this invisible friend, it was as though somebody was there when I was talking to my invisible friend. And this went on for a few years. Like I said, I can remember having one, but I can't remember how it was or how I felt or anything. Or I can't remember if I was actually seeing somebody. But this was when I was really little. Okay, we are now going to talk about the first encounter that I remember. And this story, I remember like it was yesterday. It was a very scary experience. So when I was I'd have been about 8. Like I said, I remember this. And my hair, I mean, obviously I still have really long hair now, but my hair was down to my bum. And when it comes to bedtime, my mum always said to me, tie your hair up at night, because she was so scared that in the night, rolling over and things, my hair was going to get wrapped around my neck and not end very well. So yeah, I'd tie my hair up, and obviously through the night, I'd have to wake up and put my hair back in a bubble again. Now, I was scared of the dark. I'm not afraid to admit I still am now. We still have the landing light on now for the kids, but yeah, it's for me as well. But yeah, my mum and dad would have the landing light on for me when I went to bed, but then when they came to bed, they'd always turn the landing lamp off. Now, when I used to wake up to put my hair back in its bubble, it didn't affect me so much because I knew I was going straight back to sleep. For some reason, it didn't scare me, but my bedroom door was always wide open as well. Right, now there was this one night I woke and I was putting my hair back up and I happened to look up onto the landing like I did every night, and in front of my bedroom door was a boy. This boy was stood with his back to me, and I remember today like it was yesterday. It's always like it was last night that it happened. He had really short hair, kind of like a blonde look to it. He had what looked to be a green khaki cardigan on and some dark trousers. They weren't jeans, they were definitely trousers, but I couldn't see his feet. I was sat in bed and I froze. I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't scream. I was just staring at the back of this boy, and I remember feeling confused. I remember feeling really scared, and I was panicking because I couldn't move. The boy then started to turn round as if he was going to face me, and I suddenly got movement back and I hid under the quilt. I still couldn't speak. Under the quilt, I remember being really hot because obviously I was scared. I didn't want to take my head out of the quilt because I thought he was literally going to be in my face. And I was obviously breathing really heavily under the quilt as well because I was petrified. But then I remember waking up to daylight. I'd obviously fell back to sleep again eventually, but it felt like I was under there for hours. And I was just listening for anything. It was quite, it's not very nice. Now, the next morning when I woke up, I told my mum what I had seen during the night. And instead of mum saying, well, you was probably dreaming or something along them lines, she just, why didn't you shout me? She was very serious about it, which I thought was really weird. Because it is something normally, if you've got kids, you probably tell them, I don't tell them they were dreaming if they come out with stuff, because I'm like, Susie, remember when you was 8? But I told my mum I couldn't scream, I couldn't talk. She said, why didn't you jump out of bed and run to me? Now, obviously I told her he was outside my bedroom door. So this is my bedroom door, okay? My mum and dad's bedroom door's there. So if he stood in front of mine, he's also stood in front of my mum and dad's. So I would have had to have run past him to get in, and I couldn't move anyway. Things would happen at my parents' house, just little things like footsteps, knocking, things like that, things that you might be able to explain, but at the same time they were really weird, especially if there was no one in the house with you. It was really strange to hear. But I do remember one thing that happened. My mum and my sister, my little sister, they were out. I don't know where they were, but there was just me and my dad at home. And I remember I was watching telly, and my mum and dad in their bedroom, they have, like proper thick wood pine drawer sets. And obviously when you pull them open and shut them, they like really scrape because they're so heavy and solid. Well, I could hear this, and it was going on for a good 20 minutes while I was watching telly, and I thought, I'm trying to watch my programme here. So obviously I thought, well, my dad's looking for something and he can't find it, so you know what men are like. So I got up and I went to obviously shout up the stairs to my dad. But as I got up, I looked out of the living room window into the driveway, and my dad was there outside clearing the car out. I obviously then got a bit scared and I went to see if dad needed any help out there. So I don't know what that was, but it was definitely my mum and dad's drawers. So I moved out of my mum and dad's house when I was about 17, and I went to live with my first partner, and we lived in a flat. Now, not a lot happened in the flat, but also I didn't see anything, but I remember we had a dog, and the dog, he was called Winnie, Black Lab. He used to bark at the airing cupboard doors in the hallway all the time. It was that sort of, not so much a bark, it was like a growl, like he was growling at something. He used to do that quite frequently, and yes, I often would have things knock over. I'd hear footsteps, I'd hear knocking. Again, some things you can explain, but it was still really weird that it was all happening again there. And by the way, nothing was happening at my mum and dad's at the time. And then I remember one night I was at the flat alone, and when he was in the hallway, he wasn't allowed in the living room because we had a like beige carpet and black dog hair. I mean, we still did tread it through into there, but we didn't want him in there because of that carpet. That sounds really awful, but he had the run of the rest of the flat. But you know the gold bars that obviously are on, or silver, you can get silver as well, that are on the carpet, and it obviously where the door is, so it separated the hallway floor to the living room floor. Excuse me. He was laid watching telly from the hallway looking into the living room, and I was sat watching telly in the living room, and he wouldn't normally step foot over that. He wouldn't put a toe over that gold bar. But this one night I was alone with him, and all of a sudden like, he was growling at the airing cupboard door, and then he bolted through the living room door and sat basically on my knee. And it scared me because he knew not to come in the living room. Something really spooked him. But whilst he was sat with me, he was trying to look out the living room door, and he looked absolutely petrified. So at this point, I rang my partner at the time and told him, and I don't think it was long before he came home. So I moved back in with my mum at the age of 19 with Declan. Me and Declan moved back into my mum's. No, I wasn't 19. What am I going on about? I had Declan at 19. I moved back in my mum's at 22. I think I was around 21, 22 years old. And lo and behold, things started happening there again. At this point, we thought it's not the homes that I'm moving into, because that is like massive coincidence. Something is following me. So yeah, I moved back in with my mum, and things started happening again. So my sister's phone was thrown across her bedroom floor. My mum once took a pile of my sister's clean washing. It had been ironed. It was all folded into a pile. My mum placed the pile onto the bed. She went off to do some things, and then a bit later she went back into my sister's room. I don't know why, but the pile was not on the bed anymore. It was on the floor. Now you might think, well, it tippled. No, it didn't tipple, because the pile was still in its pile on the floor, but the whole thing had flipped the other way, and it was still neat but on the floor. Mum and Dad's doorbell used to go off quite frequently, which, yes, these battery powered doorbells can be sort of, they can go off on their own, but it hasn't done it since I've moved out again. So we do find that a bit of a weird coincidence. I can remember once the loft hatch, I wasn't there, my mum and my sister, it was just them there, and they were watching telly, I think, in the living room, and there was an almighty crash up on the landing, and the loft door had decided to give way, which it had never done before, and it was a very strong door. It was, my dad had built it. It was a very strong door, but that just gave way and opened. I can remember my mum telling me once she was in the house on her own, and she was in the living room. I think she was reading a magazine or something. I don't know where we all were. And she was sat reading a magazine, and we have the dining room at my mum's, and then there's a wooden step into the living room. Now, this wooden step creaks. It's wood, it's bound to. While she was sat reading the magazine, she heard the step go, like somebody had stood on the step, and then it was like this thing walked into the living room and sat opposite her on the settee, because she heard the cushion go, and she swears she saw it as well go down. She said she didn't feel scared, but she said she froze. She didn't know what was going on or anything, and she just found the whole thing pretty weird. Declan always used to say that somebody was on the landing, which creeped me out, and this person spoke to them, and this person, I'm sure he said something along the lines of, this person told him that we need to leave. The first time Matt had heard anything, I never spoke about any of this to Matt, because this was something, it's a bit of a subject in it that you don't really talk about, because people might think you're a complete nutter. Please don't unsubscribe. I'm saying really. So my mum and dad went away. I don't know if it was for a week, a weekend, I can't remember. It was a long time ago. They went away, and I was there on my own at home at my mum's, and Matt stayed with me. Sorry, I'm actually in the house on my own telling this story and I am starting to freak out a bit. So yeah, my mum and dad were away, Matt stayed with me the night and we were watching something on telly, and like I said before, above is my mum and dad's bedroom. Well, remember when I told you that the drawers were opening and shutting and I got up to see what dad was doing, but he was outside? Well, the drawers started opening and shutting. Matt kept looking at me and I was just watching telly and I thought, please, no, not now, don't do this now. And he said, what is Declan doing? Because we had Declan and he was in bed. It was quite late. And I was like, he's asleep. And he was like, well, he can't be because he's going through your mum and dad's drawers. And I was like, he wouldn't be able to undo them drawers because they were so heavy and thick. He wouldn't. He was only 2. And he went upstairs. I left him to go have a look for himself. I didn't say anything. And then he come down and he didn't look very good. He said Declan was fast asleep. He said he got upstairs, the drawers stopped, but he heard noises in my mum and dad's bedroom. And obviously he just came back down and he told me what happened. But yeah, so I kind of had to tell him a few bits then. But yeah, he was a skeptic. Let's just say he's not now, because of the things that have happened in the house we're in now. Okay, so the house that we're in now, we got the keys, everything was fine. The only thing that we found weird was that, well, we didn't actually find it weird, but Declan wouldn't settle in his bedroom. Now, Declan had never had his own bedroom because when I was with my ex-partner, Declan's dad, he did have his own room, but it was a 1-bedroom flat. And we ended up sleeping on a bed settee in the living room when he was about 1, just so that he had his own room. But he wasn't really used to his own room. So we put it down to that he just wasn't settling. He was in a new house. He had his very own bedroom and we just thought that maybe he wasn't settling. And then we decided to move bedrooms with him. He's now in a front bedroom alongside us. We're in a front bedroom. We've got the staircase that separates us, if you get what I mean. And from the first night in there, he settled absolutely fine, which, yeah, we did find weird when he settled in that room, that it was like, oh, well, why didn't he settle in that room? Okay, so our first experience in this house was we were sat watching telly. Declan was in bed. And it feels weird seeing just Declan because obviously Jamie wasn't about then. But we were watching telly and Declan, yeah, he was fast asleep. And we all of a sudden heard somebody run from Declan's bedroom. It was little feet. We thought it was Declan. Run from Declan's bedroom across the landing and into our bedroom. So we sort of looked at each other and was like, Declan's looking for us. Obviously, he thinks we're in our bedroom. He thinks we're asleep. So Matt went upstairs because the noise it stopped. It went into our bedroom and it stopped. So obviously whatever, Declan was doing, he'd stopped in our bedroom and he was probably scared looking for us. So yeah, Matt went upstairs and he came back down. Declan was fast asleep. We have been told that maybe it could have been the neighbours, but what we don't understand is how our neighbours would have moved simultaneously. I can't say the word simultaneously. Because it went from Declan's room, it would have been both neighbours moving in a way at the same time that made it sound like it was in our house. It was definitely someone running across our landing, and it's creepy. There's been many times that we have been in bed, we've just got into bed, and somebody has walked into the bathroom thinking one of the kids has walked into the bathroom to go to the toilet. The light's always on in the bathroom anyway. But nobody comes out again because nobody has gone to the toilet. There was one night we was in bed and we were fast asleep, but we woke up to a bang. Our bedroom door, we never shut it completely to, we just have it ajar just in case Declan needed us. And we still have it just ajar today in case the kids want us and they can't get in. But this certain night, we was fast asleep and yeah, we woke up to a bang and our bedroom door was wide open and it was bouncing off the wall. It had been shoved open and you might think it might have been a bit of breeze. It could have been, but it had never happened before and it's never happened since. We didn't have a window open anyway. It was summertime, there was no wind. It was very strange, more strange that it's never happened before then, and it's never happened again. But Matt closed the door, got back into bed. We sort of laid there a bit, was a bit sort of like shook up because obviously it made us jump. And we started going back to sleep again, and the door slammed onto the wall again. It wasn't just a open slowly, it was like somebody pushed it really hard or kicked it even, because it was that hard. But yeah, that was a bit weird. And the bedroom that Declan used to be in, the one that he didn't settle in, I remember one day I was we've got a cupboard on the landing it used to have towels and sheets in, and I was putting some clean towels away, and his bedroom door, the hinges, because that door, obviously Jamie's got that bedroom now, and we have to have a door stop on it to keep it open because he likes his bedroom door open. And yeah, this one day the door was, and it shut on its own, and it never shuts. Again, it could be a coincidence, but I just found it really weird that that room as well, that Declan wouldn't settle in, and the door, it shuts on its own, but it never opens on its own. Did I say that right? It opened on its own, and it doesn't. It normally shuts on its own, and it never did that again. Obviously, it doesn't now because we have a doorstop against it, so it doesn't close on its own, and obviously it's continuously open, so it's not going to open on its own. But yeah, we did find that really strange. Okay, so a few things happened whilst I was pregnant with Jamie. There was a time when I woke up. Matt had already gone off to work. He was on earlies. When he's on earlies, he is up and out the house and probably starting work before we get up. Sometimes now I get up with him. I'm a bit weird at the minute. But yeah, he'd gone. And I was awake. I was laid in bed talking to Declan from our bedrooms. He was still in his bed and we were having a conversation. But while I was talking to him, I was looking up at the ceiling and there was black smoke. I don't mean like a cloud of smoke. It was, sorry, I'm creeping myself out. It wasn't a cloud of smoke. It was like a ribbon of smoke. And it was coming down towards me, which I can remember thinking, smoke rises, that's really weird. But I was just in this trance. It was really bizarre. I felt at ease. I felt fine. But I just, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I remember twigging, like, whoa, this isn't a normal thing to see. But it had gone. And it was really, really weird. Then about, I don't know, I want to say a few weeks to a month later, I was in the bedroom and I looked up on, you know, your coving across the top of the, right at the top of the wall, splitting sort of the ceiling and wall. I looked up at the coving and a spider, literally probably bigger than my hand, was crawling across the coving, which scared me anyway because I don't like spiders. But I couldn't help but watch it. And I couldn't scream, I couldn't move. And I watched this spider crawling. But as it was crawling across the coving, it started to disappear until it had gone completely. Now at this point, I was like, right, this isn't normal. So I looked at Google, don't Google things. I Googled spiders disappearing. I felt very strange typing that into Google, but I typed it in. And it's, I can't remember what it said. But what I do remember was then it started sort of including seeing smoke, black smoke. And I thought, okay, these two things connected. So I then clicked on a link about spiders and smoke or something like that. I can't remember. And I couldn't believe it. It started going on about demons. And I was like, no. And then it started to explain about demons and that demons can sometimes show themselves in a form of a child. Naturally, I started to get a bit scared. One day I was doing my hair. Declan was getting ready for nursery, I think, or school. He was either in nursery or foundation, reception, whatever you want to call it. He was getting ready, I was getting ready anyway. And through the crack of our door, a child whispered, "Mummy." So I shouted back because Declan had been messing about that morning. And I said, "Declan, just get ready for school." But straight away from his bedroom, he shouted, "I am." He would have had to have run really fast to get back to his bedroom from whispering through our door, because that's how quickly I said and he said what he said, if that made sense. And I would have heard him because our landing it still is wood flooring. So yeah, I didn't hear anything, and I don't know what that was, but a child whispered mummy through the crack of our door. So Jamie was born, and things didn't stop there. He obviously had to have the bedroom. He's still in that bedroom now that Declan wouldn't settle in. He was fine as a baby in there, but then I think it was during teething stages, so he was still a baby, but not newborn. He was fine at newborn, but then yeah, during teething stages, or was it, no, he'd been just past teething stages. He was having what we thought were night terrors. Now, I think that's pretty common in a child. Declan didn't have them, but yeah. But I can remember feeling really tired one day, and I went in to make his bed one morning, and I remember Declan not settling in that bedroom, and I remember turning round, I don't know why, and I just said 2-0, leave Jamie alone. And after that, we've not had another night, maybe the odd night if he's had a nightmare, but everything's been fine since, so I do find that really weird. But when he was a baby, we obviously had a baby monitor. We didn't really need one because his bedroom was right near ours, and we would have heard him, and I still wake to a slight movement of the kids anyway. I think it's mum's instinct, isn't it? But one night we was laid in bed. I think we were playing games on our phones or something. We wasn't quite tired, but we knew we needed to go up to bed because we know babies, they just get you up, don't they? So we went to go chill out in bed, and on the monitor we started hearing a child laugh. Now, it wouldn't have been Jamie because Jamie couldn't laugh. He was a tiny baby. And it wasn't Declan. It didn't sound like Declan, and we knew he was fast asleep. But it was very clear, like someone was in that room with him. And I know that baby monitors can get interference. I've heard this. But I don't know. With all the weird goings on that we have, it wouldn't surprise me, if you get what I mean. So there was one night, me and Matt went to bed. We'd literally just got into the bedroom. I climbed into bed. I always get into bed first. He turns the bedroom light off because I don't like the dark. He turned the light off and he got in bed. And I remember I said to him, he's at the end of the bed. He said, who? I said, the boy. He said, Susie, I've just literally turned the light off. There's nobody at the end of the bed. I said, he is. He was stood at the end of the bed on my corner, and I was absolutely petrified of him. I felt so scared, and I just remember thinking, why are you making me feel this way? Matt jumped out of bed and he turned the bedroom light on. There was nobody there, but he was there. He was still there. It wasn't a case of the lights went on, the feeling went away. That boy was at the end of my bed and he was scaring me, and I didn't know why. But I felt cold. I felt hot as well at the same time. I started sweating. I was absolutely petrified. Matt turned the light back off. He got back into bed and he just cuddled me and he said, look, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. I don't really know what he thinks to it. But I just couldn't help it. I was absolutely petrified. And then I remember the feeling just going away. And I said, he's gone. He must have gone because I feel fine again. Then throughout the night, I woke up to the feeling again. He was back at the end of the bed, but I couldn't even wake Matt up. Not because he was that far gone in his sleep. I just couldn't move to wake him up. I was absolutely petrified. But yeah, he really scared me that night. And to this day, I still don't know why. Let's talk about Jamie getting involved. That boy scared me twice. Jamie, the boy, not the boy ghost. There was one time me and Jamie were in the back garden and he was running across and he was looking at the top windows. The bathroom window's frosted, but then there's the landing window and Jamie's window because he's in a back bedroom. He was running from one window to the other, obviously downstairs in the garden. And he was like ducking, and then he was like going boo. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like playing hide and seek with the boy. And I was like, what? And then there was another time Jamie was upstairs playing. He was on his own, which wasn't like him because he was really young and he still doesn't like going upstairs to play on his own now. And he doesn't really play in his bedroom. He plays in Declan's bedroom. He'll take a toy into Declan's bedroom and play in there because Declan's in there. The only time he'll play in his bedroom is if he's had a friend over. Obviously, that's not happening at the minute, but that's the only time he would, or if Declan said, let's go play in your bedroom, which doesn't happen because Declan's 12 now and he doesn't really play with toys as much. He does make me laugh though, Declan. Not my laugh, I think it's lovely. He does still play with Jamie, which is, it's really nice. It's nice to see their bond. But yeah, this certain day, Declan was at school, so Jamie was either in nursery and he was home because they only did half days at nursery, or he wasn't quite at nursery yet. But it was just me and Jamie in the house. He was playing upstairs. I was watching something on telly and having a coffee, I think, and he came downstairs and said, Mummy, come play with us. No, Jamie. It was already creeping me out because he was upstairs talking, and it was like somebody was responding to him. It was really bizarre. It's just so creepy, and I really don't know what to make of it all. When we've been on holiday before, we've come back, and I remember in Declan's bedroom, there was a toy in the middle of the floor. There would not have been a toy. I'm a bit, for those of you that really know me, I personally, you know how finicky I can be with when it comes to housework and being tidy, because I can be a bit of a nightmare for it. Is it like a form of OCD? I don't know, but I can be finicky. But there was a toy in the middle of Declan's floor, and obviously none of us put it there. It was like somebody put it there while we was away, so that creeped me out. We have had things move around the house. We do often hear footsteps still. Nothing big has happened at the minute just recently. But the last big thing that happened was when we were decorating our bedroom to our Harry Potter bedroom. So the decorating of the bedroom was done nearly 3 years ago now. So nearly 3 years ago. About 2.5 actually, 2.5 years ago. So 2.5 years ago was the last time something big happened, and this scared both me and Matt. So while the bedroom was being sorted, obviously we had the bedroom plastered, so we had to sleep in the living room. Well, our living room is under our bedroom as well, as my mum and dad's is the same, and we had to sleep in the living room because of the wet plaster. All that was in that bedroom was plastered walls, floorboards. There was no, obviously, just floorboards down. Where our bed head is, where the chimney breast is up there, was a ladder, maybe just a bit away from the wall, but it was that side of the room. And where I have my honeydukes, Wheezy Wizard Wheezes and potion storeroom, on that top shelf, I had a massive handbag, and now this handbag completely filled the shelf. Inside the handbag, I had one roll of the brick wallpaper that we've got on the wall. Behind the bag was 1 or 2 rolls behind there as well. I'm not quite sure whether we had 2 or 3, but there was definitely one inside that handbag and 1 or 2 behind the handbag on the shelf. Please keep in mind that that bag filled the shelf, like completely filled it. You couldn't basically put your hands either side. So we were all camped, set up for camp in the living room. We were sleeping on camp beds, was watching telly, and it got to about 11:30 to midnight, and Matt said we'd best get some sleep. Turned everything off. As soon as our heads hit the pillows on our camp beds, massive crash upstairs in our bedroom because it happened right above us. Naturally, Matt got up, he ran straight upstairs. The first thing he did was check on the kids. The kids were fine because they're both in high tier beds. We thought as one of them fell out, not that they could because they're protected in them, but you know, did they try and climb down the ladder? Were they sleepwalking? Anything, you know. So he went to investigate the kids. Kids were fine. They didn't even wake up from the bang, and it was really loud. But then he went into our bedroom where obviously the noise did seem to be coming from, because obviously it was straight above us. He went in, and then he stood at the top of the landing, and he scared me because he was going, Suze, Suze. And I sat there like, he was whispering, because obviously with me having that mummy through the door, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? See, in the end, I realised it was Matt, and I was like, what's the matter? And he said, come up here. I was like, I don't really want to, but I did. I went upstairs, and as I was walking up the stairs, he said the hammer's on the floor, and there was a hammer on top of the stepladder, and I said, well, it might have tippled off. He said, no, it's the other side of the bedroom. And I was like, right, okay, that's weird. He said, but not only that, and as he was telling me this bit, I was walking into the bedroom. He said, not only that, there's a roll of wallpaper pointed to it next to the hammer. They were perfectly in line with each other. And I said, well, it's probably my rolled out of my handbag. I thought maybe my handbag tippled a bit and it's come out. Well, I looked and that roll of wallpaper was still in the handbag, but the one of the ones, or the one that was behind the handbag, was on the floor. Now, yes, it could have rolled off the shelf, but I'm telling you now, if that had rolled off the shelf, it would have had to have took my handbag with it, because you could literally, like I said, only get just your hands either side a little bit. You couldn't, the bag, it was a big handbag. So obviously we were quite scared. We didn't know, we can't explain that. We can't explain, yes, the hammer could have fell, but why was it the other side of the room? Why was that wallpaper on the floor with it that was behind the handbag? They were perfectly in line together. We were feeling a bit scared. Matt picked the hammer up. We felt at this point that somebody was in the house. It was a really strange feeling and it wasn't very nice. Matt was actually really scared. And he probably won't even watch this video. I think he'll give me the view and the watch hour, but he won't watch it because he doesn't like talking about this. But yeah, he picked the hammer up and I went back in the living room and I sat there and I was petrified. He went round the boys' bedrooms thoroughly with this hammer in his hand. I was like, what are you going to do with this hammer? I said, what are you going to do? He says, you're not going to hit anyone with this. He says, I might have to. We really thought somebody was in the house. This is how we felt. We had that. It was like a heavy feeling. Somebody was in our house. He checked every cupboard, every corner in the bath, everything. He checked everywhere. The cupboard under the stairs. Literally, he checked everywhere. Nobody was in the house, but for some reason the feeling didn't go away. Somebody was in the house, but we couldn't see them, we couldn't find them. We sat, I think we went for a cigarette, we come and sat back in the living room, and then all of a sudden we felt fine. We felt absolutely fine. Nobody was in the house. We didn't have that feeling. It was absolutely bizarre, but that is the last big thing that happened. But let me tell you, I went to see a medium. I've never ever seen a medium before, but I was invited to go see one, and I thought, do you know what, I'll go see one. I didn't know what was going to happen or anything. To be honest, I didn't know it was a medium. I thought it was like a fortune teller that we were going to see. I thought they were going to tell me what was in my future, this, that and the other. It wasn't until I sat with the woman that she said, I may get people through that obviously aren't here anymore. So on the way to this party, it was held at somebody's house. I got there, she wasn't there, the woman wasn't there. She was coming a bit later. But yeah, we were sat there, I got a glass of wine and we were chatting and we kept looking at the time. We was all quite sort of anxious to what was going to be said to us and things. I was quite nervous actually because I've never seen a medium, so I haven't got a clue. Well, fortune teller like I thought it was going to be. Anyway, oh no, it wasn't when I sat down with her. I found out by the people of the party that it was a medium. So I said, because I think it costs £25, right? If this boy doesn't come through, I want my money back. Because obviously he's with me all the time. So she arrived, but she didn't come through the front door into the living room. She went round the back and sat in the kitchen, and because she didn't want to see any of us, which rude. No, there would have been a reason, obviously. But yeah, she sat in the kitchen, and one by one, we were called through into the kitchen to have our turn and our chat with her. Anyway, it got to my turn. I went in, I sat down, she gave me a pen and a piece of paper and she said, I will be coming out with names and you might not be able to think off the top of your head who these people are, so write them down. It might come to you later, you might have to do a bit of research. So I was like, right, okay. And I said to her, can I record this off my phone? And she said, yeah, of course you can. So I pressed record and recorded the whole thing. Keep that in mind. So yeah, I was sat talking to her. My granddad came through. Things she said was a bit strange that she knew them, if that made any sense. And I thought, oh gosh, how could she know this? But yeah, my granddad came through. A few other people came through, and she was talking to me. And then she said, oh, I've got a little boy here. And I just remember going cold. I just went cold. She said, oh, she says, you've heard him before, haven't you? And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't expecting this boy to come through because I was really skeptical of mediums. By the way, she's called Gemma Brooks. She's on Facebook and she's absolutely an amazing person. And she's really good at what she does. So yeah, I didn't know what to say and I said, can I talk? And she said, of course you can talk. And I said, I've seen him. Well, she looked at me and she was like, you've seen him? And I said, yeah, I've seen him. She said, well, he's very, very close to you. And I can't remember how she worded it, but she was basically asking if I've lost a child before. You know, has anybody close to me lost a child? Like, no. And she said, well, he's very, very attached to you. And I just remember thinking, I know, he doesn't leave me alone. And then I said, it just suddenly came to me. And I remember saying to her, I looked at her and she said, what's the matter? I said, I was meant to be a twin. I was meant to be a twin. And she said that's who she believes it could be because he's that attached to me. So could this be my twin that follows me around? Because like I said, it would make sense because it's not the house that's haunted. It's me in a sense. So yeah, I then went and asked her about this smoke on the ceiling and the spider that was bigger than my hand going across the coving. I told her about this and that I googled it and it come up with demons and children being in the form of demons. And anyway, she then said to me, she said, look, don't panic. I physically cannot let bad spirits in. So that boy is not bad. So he's not bad. He's not bad. But yeah, I don't know what it is, whether it is my twin. Like I said, nothing massive has happened. I've had things happen where I went to get Jamie a biscuit out of the cupboard. He wanted a biscuit. I literally said yes and got straight up, went in the kitchen, and he tugged the back of, I had a cardigan on, he tugged the back of my cardigan. And I went to turn around and say to him, it's coming, your biscuit's coming. I've literally just got up, but nobody was there. So I just looked down and I went, do you want a biscuit as well? I was like, what am I doing? Oh, I recorded the medium, didn't I? Matt listened to the recording when I got home. When I got home, he said to me, did the boy come through? And I said, apparently so. And he said that apparently a lot went on in the house while I was out. And he said he wondered if that's what was why, like there was loads of knocking footsteps. It was just going mad, apparently. I think he ended up having to turn the telly off because he was just listening at everything. And because it was scaring him. But he listened to the recording. I didn't want to listen to it because with my granddad coming through, it kind of upset me and I didn't want to listen to the recording just yet because I'd literally just spoke about it and I just couldn't do it again. So I think I went outside for a cigarette. He was listening to the recording and I came back in while he was listening to it and he said, Susie, he said, I thought kids weren't allowed at the party. I said, there weren't any kids. I said, no kids were allowed. He said, well, listen, and there's a child giggling in the background of the recording. So yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I really don't know what to make of it all. I don't. Like I said, I'd love it if you could give this video a share for me. I'd really appreciate it, just to see if I can reach out to somebody that can maybe tell me what's going on or whatever. I don't know. It's not something that I talk about and I will never talk about this again on here. That's it. This is the only video that's going up about it. Unless somebody asks me otherwise. Please don't think I'm strange. I'm just telling you what's happened. It's the perfect time of year to be telling this story. And I've finally braved it. And I've done it. We've done it. I've done it. I've told the stories. Have you guys ever had any ghostly experiences? Let me know in the comments. I am very much so interested in hearing about things like this because I have my own ghost stories to tell. It just, the whole thing interests me because it's happening to me. So yeah, I'd really love a chit chat in the comments as per usual. You know what I'm like. But that's the end of the video, guys. Please give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it and don't forget to share. But I will speak to you in my next video. Bye, Potter Poppets.